Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of Doctor Who. It was called Boom. And as the episode starts, a pair of clergy soldiers or soldier clergy in the middle of a war on some distant planet are in a mined battlefield, said to be teeming with creatures trying to make their way to a base. But one soon steps on a mine and is killed. The other, blinded in prior combat, is then killed by an autonomous ambulance bot when it determines that his temporary blindness is an irredeemable defect for a soldier. The Doctor and Ruby then show up on scene, and in a rush to react to the screaming that had taken place, the Doctor steps on a mine. He then guides Ruby through some steps to try to help him, and after some very tense moments, some progress is made toward getting him safely off, but he's left still on it. The daughter of the blind soldier named Splice arrives on scene in search of her dad and almost trips the mine. Next, another soldier clergy named Mundy shows up and orders the Doctor to drop the compressed corpse of the dead dad that he'd been using as a counterweight after it had been given to him by Ruby when she found it on the ground. But he explains that if the mine blows, the explosion of his person will blow up half the planet since he's a higher life form. She decides to help the Doctor and Ruby, but things go wrong before she can, and Ruby winds up shot by yet another soldier, Mundy's fellow soldier, Canto. The ambulance bot then reveals that Ruby is over 3,000 years old, but refuses to help her because she's not a believer. Now, this moment gave me pause because where is she getting that bit that Ruby's over 3,000 years old? Whose timeline is that based on? In other words, are she and the Doctor so far in the future that her year of birth, which is 2004, is 3,000 years in the past, meaning they're in the year 5,000 something? Or are they not far in the future at all, just on a different planet, and Ruby was actually born centuries before 2004 and brought forward in time as a baby to be left at the church? We don't know. So that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if that comes to anything, that whole 3,000 years old thing. Anyway, as Ruby lay dying, dream snow once again crosses into reality. And the Doctor explains to the soldiers that they aren't actually fighting anyone, but have been tricked into fighting their own hardware by an algorithm designed to keep war going for profit's sake. And that if Mundy surrenders, the mine, now on a fail-safe countdown to detonation, will shut off. Before this can occur, Canto is abruptly killed by the ambulance bot in the middle of declaring his love for Mundy. A bunch of ambulance bots then show up, determined to stop the effort to stop the war. The mine counts down but doesn't blow, and the ambulance revives Ruby, apparently as a result of the intercession of the AI hologram of the deceased dad soldier contained within his compressed corpse, I guess, and the little piece of tech attached to it that the Doctor had asked to mess with the algorithm for this exact purpose. The Doctor and Ruby then say their goodbyes and depart, and that's where the episode ended. So there's a lot of nuance that goes on between the moments that I've told you about in that brief breakdown of the hour-long episode that, made the episode much more intense and thought-provoking than my breakdown made it sound. So you really have to watch it. And if you couldn't tell from what I just said, that means I really liked this episode quite a bit. It was very intense. It was very much a nail-biter. And Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson really, really shined in this episode. And I have to keep reminding myself that Millie Gibson is like 19 years old because she is such a better actress than her years would normally make you think she would be capable of being. She's really, really good for someone so young. And it felt a lot like a classic Doctor Who episode. And by classic, I mean, going back to 2005 when I started watching it. Almost 20 years ago. In that, it was about people in a crappy situation, the lives of which intersect with the Doctor, who then finds himself and his companion in peril, at which point he has to try to work through the situation without anybody getting hurt, which doesn't always exactly work out. In this case, Canto died. But it was very much a bonding experience for the Doctor and Ruby, very much an experience that brought them closer together and really put them through their paces. which I thought was excellent. And, couched in there, of course, were criticisms of reckless capitalism, war profiteering, and reckless capitalism. And of course, the anti-woke crowd is going to jump all over that and say it's woke, it's anti-capitalism. But, you know, if I'm not mistaken, the Doctor has come out against reckless, self-interested profiteering and similar things in the past because it was something that he realized was hurting other beings, and he would come out against it. So this is not new. Also couched in there were some criticisms of religion, but not so much religion as blind faith and strict faith to the point of discrimination, where the ambulance wouldn't save Ruby because she wasn't a believer. And, I thought that was thought provoking. And, the Doctor has done similar things before, if I'm not mistaken. So, again, if the anti-woke crowd starts to cry and say, oh, it came out as anti-religion, oh, it's woke. No, it's not true. No more woke than it's been in the past. No more woke than Star Trek was in 1989 in season 3 or whatever of The Next Generation when it was doing similar things, coming out against extreme religious belief, coming out against profiteering to the point of hurting other beings. Star Trek was doing that in the 60s as well. So they can just shut the hell up. And, once again, part of the story was seen through a child's eyes or in the context of a child, being affected by it. And that's not new in Doctor Who either. And it's always thought-provoking when the show does that. So I thought that was good. I just thought it was a good episode all around. Very intense, very thought-provoking, very good character stuff, very good for the chemistry of the two characters as a unit. And it dropped that interesting bit of information about Ruby's age. Maybe it doesn't mean anything, depending on the point of view of the ambulance bot that said what it said. But maybe it does mean something. Because, just because it was 2004 when she was found at the church doesn't mean she was born in 2004, right? We don't know who that mother is. We don't know if the person who dropped her off is her mother, and they could have come from anywhere. They could be a time traveler like the Doctor or like Jack, Captain Jack, or some other being that travels through time. So it'll be interesting to see if that gets picked up, that bit of information gets picked up on going forward. But that's really it. I mean, I think this series is off to a great start. If you count the Christmas special, and I do, we've now had 4 episodes of the new Doctor and the new companion. And I think they've all been good, some better than others. But I'm really keen to see, the next episode. I'm really liking this season. And that's a lot more than I could say about Jodie Whittaker's time as the Doctor in its entirety. I didn't really think very much of the episodes that she was in total. I liked the one with the sea monsters, but I didn't think very much of her time as the Doctor, and I'm glad to say that I'm liking this newest era quite a bit so far. But I'm going to get out of here for now. I'll be back to do a breakdown and review of the next episode once it's released. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.